All right, Talkin Dawgs is live on YouTube from the Falk Abode in Choctaw County, Mississippi. I hope you guys are doing well wherever you may be, um, across the country, across the world. Maybe we might even have some of our loyal Thunder and Lightning listeners from Nepal in here. Oh, that'd be pretty cool. Um, I hope you guys have had a great week to this point. A little different tonight. We're doing a special Thursday edition of this. We usually do this on Monday. Sometimes we push it to Tuesday. We had the Creed concert this week. I had some things to do. I just I couldn't deal with it until tonight. So lots to get to. This has been a pretty big day for Mississippi State in a lot of ways, and a much needed day for them as far as positive momentum is concerned. Because this has been a football program that has been desperately searching for it, and really an athletic department, because football has kind of taken center stage here for Mississippi State at this point. Because you don't have, baseball's done. You don't have basketball just yet. This is kind of your sport. I mean, no offense to soccer or volleyball, but there's just not the volume of people that are keeping up with that. The big sports are not going on, so everybody's focused on football, and football has kind of been miserable for Mississippi State the last couple of weeks. You haven't had a lot of momentum in recruiting since deep in the summer. So Mississippi State has desperately been looking for it, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Thursday could not have happened at a better time for Mississippi State with what's been happening for them as a football program. Um, we'll touch on Toledo here in a second, but I don't want to bury the lead. I want to talk about what happened on Thursday and really starting back in Wednesday night. Wednesday night late, I was actually asleep when it happened, but Mississippi State picked up a commitment from East Mississippi Community College safety Tony Mitchell, a guy that Coleman Hutzler goes back with at Alabama. They had a good relationship. He basically got kicked off the team at Alabama for being arrested, and is at Last Chance U at EMCC, and is still just as good a player as he was at Alabama. This was a guy that was supposed to be competing for playing time this year, competing for a starting position this year at Alabama in the secondary. His talent has not changed at all. This wasn't a guy that was processed over there. So, kind of getting back in the good graces. He went to junior college. Nobody really picked him up. So that's where he lands at East Mississippi, and has been getting a lot of attention over the last few weeks. Was, I think, scheduled to go to Auburn this weekend. Mississippi State's done a great job of building a relationship with him. Already had it with Coleman Hutzler, but getting to know Jeff Lebby a little bit, and obviously Matt Barnes too, who's going to be his position coach. And the Bulldogs got him to pull a trigger. He's had a good couple of ball games, 3 tackles for loss as a safety, forced fumble, recovered fumble. I think that this is a really big get for Mississippi State. This is a guy that I think is a plug-and-play, immediate starter, one of the most talented players on your defense right away next year. So a huge box to check off for Coleman Hutzler for the offseason as he's trying to rebuild this defensive unit that looks really devoid of talent right now. No talent, no depth. I don't want to say no talent, but very little talent on that side of the ball as far as SEC is concerned. They've got to have guys like Tony Mitchell, difference makers in the SEC, guys that are SEC players. I think Tony Mitchell is a great start for Coleman Hutzler and company. And to get him to go ahead and shut it down, he's not a guy that really wants to be dramatic in recruiting, from what I understand, talking to Paul Jones, who's actually, talked to him a little bit. He knows him a lot better than I do. And, Paul says that he's really not a guy that wants to really carry this out and have a long drawn out process. He wanted to get his decision made and be done with it. And he's going to get a new life at Mississippi State, and it should be interesting. But this is a great piece to get. Mississippi State's got to go out probably in the transfer portal and get several players on that side of the ball to get a guy that, has not entered the transfer portal and he's playing right now in junior college, to go ahead and like I said, check that box and get that spot filled. That's a huge start for Mississippi State. As far as an immediate impact guy is concerned, I like this pickup. So that happened around, I don't know what time it was, 11:30, midnight, something like that. I mean, I woke up to it this morning. And then, and this has kind of been building. And if you followed us on Maroon and White Daily, which if you aren't over there, what are you doing? We have the best message board in the business. We have the best football recruiting coverage in the business, best basketball coverage in the business. Please come check us out. Everybody's over there. We're having a time right now. It has been absolute chaos on the message board today. The ups and downs this week on the message board have been incredible. If that's not for you, if you don't like getting involved in that, I understand that. Come there for the information, because Paul and I try to give you the most up-to-date information that we possibly can in team news and recruiting. But if you do like the message board, we got the place for you, because that place is absolutely popping right now. It's filled with some good and the bad, but it's, we all need that to build our character in our life. And then in the morning time, I think it was like 8:30 or 9, you get Tyler Lockhart pops. And these are two guys that we've kind of alluded to over the past week or so as being really close. And Mississippi State has done a really good job on both of these players. Tony Mitchell, we felt like could commit at any time. Tyler Lockhart, a little bit tougher to read. If you remember, and just a little background on him, if you don't follow recruiting closely, Tyler Lockhart is a linebacker, 4-star linebacker from Winona, top 10 player in the state of Mississippi, one of the top linebackers in the country. His brother plays offensive line for Mississippi State, true freshman, going to redshirt this year. His best friend is Fat Clark, another true freshman that is a linebacker. The end result, I think, was always going to be Mississippi State, but getting to that end result has been the battle. You felt good about him early on in the summer, actually dating back all the way to the spring. He committed to Auburn. That was a little bit of a surprise, but I've never really wavered in my thoughts with Tyler. I've always thought that he would end up at Mississippi State. It was just going to be the process of getting him here, and when does that happen? And for Mississippi State, they badly need players like him in the class carrying the banner. Unless it's a banner M, we don't want him to carry that. Maybe carry a banner with the interlocking on it. But anyway, you kind of need players like him, Camardo Taylor, Mario Nash. You need those in-state guys that are, 4-star caliber players that are name players. You need those guys to be solid, because what's coming for Mississippi State is going to be really tough. And you got to have this class stick together. You got to have the fan base stick together, the players, all those guys. You need players like Tyler Lockhart, who I believe will sign with Mississippi State, and I don't have any concerns about that. You need those guys to be locked in with you. And so, he commits to Auburn, then he decommits from Auburn back during the summer, and everybody initially points to Mississippi State. That's where he's headed. It felt like he was about to commit then. And when he didn't commit, you start to get concerned a little bit. He goes and takes visits at Auburn. And then the news starts coming out that Auburn's about to land him again. It just got to the point where you really didn't know what to expect with Tyler Lockhart. But the last couple of weeks, Mississippi State's done a really good job of kind of shoring up anything and getting, back in the good graces, I guess you could say, with him and his family. And it just makes sense for him. And he's going to be around his brother and his best friend. He knows a lot of guys on this roster. He knows a lot of guys in this signing class. And also for his family, they get a chance to come see the two brothers play together, and then Fat Clark as well. So this was a big get. To me, a bigger get than Tony Mitchell, because it's a 4-star true freshman that I think can have a similar impact. I said this today on TNL, and I really believe it. I believe he can have a similar impact to Willie Gay and what Willie Gay did at Mississippi State, even better impact, because Willie was kind of off and on the field. I think this guy can be that kind of player. I think he can be an NFL guy if everything goes right for him. And, there are no, we've seen it with guys before. There are no can't miss prospects. There are no guys that you can, write and pin that these guys are going to be first-round picks or make it in the NFL, be all-pro. You still got to handle your business, but I think this guy has all the makings of being a star at linebacker for Mississippi State, and this is a huge get. I would be shocked if he's not helping Mississippi State on defense next year. All right, so number 3 that happened. I got a phone call right after Tyler Lockhart committed, and the person I was talking to said, get ready. There's another big announcement coming. And what I was told was a huge monetary gift was on the way, one of the biggest in Mississippi State history from an athletic standpoint. It's going to go towards the State Excellence Fund, which is something that Mississippi State has created here recently for revenue sharing. And this basically transpired for Mississippi State on Monday morning Monday afternoon. As I understand it, I believe Zach Selman was approached and has had relationships with these donors, and is not Dak Prescott, ladies and gentlemen. This is a family of donors at Mississippi State that I think people would know that had talked to Zach Selman about fixing this. I think a lot of people were motivated more than dejected for lack of a better word, pissed off after what happened against Toledo. And I think people are just tired of that and ready to take Mississippi State to the next level. So this was initially, I think, a $6 million figure was posed first. They came back and said, no, we're going to give $2 million more. So this is above and beyond by the people that did this. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg in a good way. Usually when you hear tip of the iceberg and you're thinking about Titanic, I guess I could have used a different analogy there, but I think this is just the beginning for Mississippi State from a fundraising standpoint. And I give a lot of credit to the people that did it, first and foremost, for the generous gift they gave to Mississippi State, but also give a ton of credit to the people in place in that administration of Mississippi State for their fundraising ability, the ability to build those relationships and get people invested. Terry Prentice, Josh McCowan, those two are excellent home run hires by Zach Selman that I think are going to do big things in athletics. Josh was big at Kansas State in fundraising. Terry Prentice did a lot of big things at the kind of the height, the beginning of NIL at Arkansas. And he has done so much behind the scenes for Mississippi State. I can't even explain to you how important he's been. This is bothering me. Can't explain to you how important he's been. He is a rock star in the industry and on the way up. Mississippi State's very lucky to have him, and he's heavily involved in football in the NIL, providing opportunities for guys. He works kind of hand in hand with the Bulldog Initiative too, and a lot of people initially kind of confused about how this works, and I'll try to explain this a little bit for you. So the donation going to the State Excellence Fund, that is a fund created by Mississippi State. Essentially, this thing is basically smoke and mirrors for the future. You kind of pose it as they're helping out student athletes. I think it's going to be involved with the Bulldog Club. So it helps fund scholarships, which are essential. You got to have those in place to be able to pay for these kids' scholarships. And that's what the Bulldog Club is essentially about. But basically, this fund is in place for Mississippi State whenever revenue sharing is passed, which everyone I talk to believes is imminent at this point, that there will be revenue sharing in college athletics very soon. I seriously doubt it's going to be this year, like through December, but I would be surprised if it continues to stretch beyond next year. I think that the bottom line is Mississippi State is in position to be competitive in that era whenever revenue sharing begins. And they have been basically forming this out, whether it be through fundraising or staff hires, getting people prepared for this. Zach Selman's been doing this for about a year and a half, 2 years now, since he's been hired, however long that's been. He's been preparing for this moment, and a lot of people have gotten kind of perturbed the fact that Mississippi State hadn't had facility upgrades. A lot of that is because of preparing for revenue sharing. that's where Mississippi State is investing the bulk of their funds right now, to have a chance to compete on that um, level. So they're very excited and very confident in where they are right now. I think they took a tremendous step in the right direction on Thursday. Thank you to the person who gave $8 million. People they gave $8 million, because I think that really has got the ball rolling. You see a fan base now that is a lot more united than it was a week ago at this point. And there's nothing that motivates people in this era and any other era as far as fundraising and recruiting and things like that. Nothing motivates people like that more than your some devastating losses, embarrassing losses, or your rival being really successful. And I think both of those things happen for Mississippi State. And whatever it takes, you accept it. So Charlie Winfield has done yeoman's work for a year and a half, 2 years now, however long the Bulldog initiative has been alive. Charlie Winfield has basically kept Mississippi State alive doing that, and you know, he's done a really good job building those relationships with people in this fan base, to raise money, getting people involved, trying to formulate a plan to get more and more money to make Mississippi State a competitive place. I think they've done a good job. People have talked about Mississippi State's NIL situation like, they're poor, but I can count two guys that Mississippi State has lost that they didn't want to lose. And it really wasn't even NIL related for both of those guys. Mississippi State had competitive offers, actually had more money on the table from what I've been told for Xavier Thomas, and he went to LSU. So retaining players, to me, that shows how healthy your NIL situation is more than just about anything, because teams are coming in picking off some of your best players, and Mississippi State has been able to kind of keep that at bay. So Mississippi State has not been, in dire straits in the NIL space, but I think now they're trying to be seriously competitive and going out there and acquiring talent. And I think that's the only way they're going to be able to get out of this situation that they're in. All right, so I've talked for 17 minutes. I apologize, but I needed to kind of get all that out of the way before I start taking questions. I wanted to kind of get to the bulk of everything and the timeline of how everything's happened, stuff like that, before we really got down to it. And I don't think we really need to rehash Toledo. You guys all watched that disaster, but we will move into questions. All right, we'll start with Kobe Walker. How you doing, Kobe? Huge commitments for Mississippi State. Yeah, those are big ones. Got to shore up those defensive issues. That's a good start. Now you need to go get some defensive linemen, some offensive linemen, and you'll be in pretty good shape. You only need like 4 position groups stocked. That's it. Tucker Medlin, Toledo, the best loss for State since the 2008 Egg Bowl, people were asking. Might be, man. It might be. That certainly motivated some Mississippi State people. It took Mississippi State into a new era. It'll be interesting to see what happens from this. If Mississippi State can kind of rally the troops on Saturday and put together a really good performance and win that ball game against Florida, that would be, the Toledo game could be a turning point. Even if they do struggle and they lose these games coming down the pipe, just to show that fight and to kind of get back up and continue to fight there would be huge. Stringer Films was the donation made by Mr. and Mrs. Prescott Jones. I guess that's talking about Dak and Chris Jones. It was not, but I think that something is in the works with Dak. Nothing that I'm willing to go like out on a limb and say, but I think that Mississippi State is definitely, in talks with his people about something, about a donation of some form or fashion. I think the DAC is willing to help Mississippi State out, and other Mississippi State players are as well. That all that stuff is kind of ongoing, but it's a very complicated situation whenever you're dealing with former players because I talked to somebody about this today. These guys or people are holding their hands out for these guys all the time, and it's tough to go up and ask them for money. Everybody else is too, but a few of them are willing to help and are open to helping. And I think Dak is definitely one of them. Cameron White, Charlie coming to the board nearly broke it. Yeah, Charlie's been really good about coming to our message board and kind of giving his thoughts on stuff and really putting a lot of people at ease. And he's been really upfront about a lot of things. He always, is pretty good about coming over if people have questions and taking a little time and talking to our members over there. It's another great reason to come sign up for us. We have Charlie on our board answering a lot of questions a lot of the time, and if you have any questions for him, I'm sure you can get up with him through email anyway. But he does a good job of coming over there and really letting our folks know what's going on, being upfront and honest, and making sure if you're an investor in this, he's pretty good about making sure where your money's going, what it's being used for, things like that. Stringer Films, can Lebby make great again by November? I don't know, man. It's going to be tough this year. I just don't know if this team has the dudes to go out there and do it. Again, I think the biggest thing for Mississippi State is they've got to show fight. They got to stick together because this thing's going to get real rough. I don't think we're at the end of this by any means. I think that there's a lot of tough times coming this year for Mississippi State. But I think what fans need to remember, and these players too, which they know it better than anybody because they're in the building every single day and they're the ones talking to the coaches. This is kind of a long-term deal. I mean, this is, for lack of a better phrase, this is a marathon for Mississippi State. And people have got to be patient with this. And it's hard to do, especially when you see a lot of other teams that are having success. There's going to come a time, and it might be Saturday, where you guys say, what are we doing? Why are we investing money in this? And I totally get that. I totally understand that. But it's got to be kind of a trust thing. If you're willing to do it, having faith in what Jeff Lebby's preaching, and also remembering that I'm not a coach apologist by any means. I think you can go back and listen to me talk about Zach Arnett and Mike Leach and Joe Moorhead and every coach that Mississippi State's had since I've been covering this beat. I do not mind talking about their deficiencies and their issues. I am not a trust the coaches guy or a coach apologist, but I don't think that a lot of the issues here are Jeff Lebby's issues. I think a lot of it is years of neglect in recruiting, bad evaluations, bad development, and several different coaches. If you can't look at that and see that that's an issue, then I don't think that you're looking at it objectively. 5 coaches in 7 years or whatever it is at this point is just an insane amount. And I don't know how anybody can have any stability after that. It's just Mississippi State. It's kind of the hand they've been dealt. They've put themselves in some of those situations, and some of it's just bad luck. But it's one of those deals where you're going to have to suffer through this season. And come December, we'll see what Jeff Lebby and his staff's able to do. And I'm sure they'll have to have some changes there. And, you're going to have to convince guys in this class to stick around. You're going to have to convince guys on this roster to stick around. It's a very complicated situation. But like I said, the only way out of this is continuity with the current staff, with Jeff Lebby, and finances. Mississippi State's got to be able to be in good standing financially and offer some competitive dollar amounts to the right players, not just anybody. They got to get guys that are difference makers. Tom T, do you think Kelly Akari is wide receiver one? I don't. I think he has the potential. To me, I think Kevin Coleman has kind of emerged there. We just haven't seen enough from Akari yet. Kind of getting back into his groove after his injury, but we just haven't seen enough of him yet. We need to see more of him to really have some faith in him. But Kevin Coleman has been fantastic. It's kind of his throne right now. MSU Bulldog fan, I love how after a rough loss, MSU gets a donation, great commitments, just gives a sense of hope and shows how supportive our fan base is. Yeah, this is kind of where where it is now, like it's if you don't have the fan support, and it's kind of been like that forever, but it's now more than ever, like the people with the most not the most fans, but the ones that are supporting the team the best have an upper hand in this thing. And um, that's why I think it's important that people continue to come to games, even if it's rough to watch. Hopefully, State can show you something this weekend. They can win this ball game to keep this fan base invested, because it's going to get tougher and tougher. I think the people I've talked to, State fans, some of my friends, people that I run into that usually go to games, most everybody's going to be there this weekend that I've talked to. People have just kind of not put an ultimatum, but they've kind of said this might be it for me this year. Like I don't know if I can watch this every week if State keeps putting that on the field. So my hope is that they come out and play a really good football game and give you something to want to come back and see. Because the last 2 weeks have been really tough to watch, especially in the first half. So we'll see if they're able to put it together and kind of get back on track this week. They desperately need to. Stringer Films, how do you think Georgia's new NIL law will affect Mississippi teams? Now universities can pay players directly in Georgia. It's all going to come to a head. Everybody's going to be doing the same thing soon. And you'll have to have legislation. You'll have to have NCAA rules. You'll have to have probably a cap on how much money you can spend. But you're still going to have these collectives. I don't think the Bulldog Initiative is going anywhere. That goes back to my point. A lot of people have asked, well, if there is no revenue sharing, then what are we going to do with this money, like right away? And with that, I would say that State probably is, they're not going to spend that unless it's on scholarships or something like that that they need to, if they absolutely need that. But at the same time, they're going to have the Bulldog Initiative in place. And also, you can sell this to recruits. We just got an $8 million gift. You're going to have NIL opportunities at Mississippi State. There are teams around the country right now that are promising money that they can't give a player right away. There's tons of players that have signed with schools that have not gotten that money yet. Or at least not the figure that they agreed on. So I'm not saying State's going to be dishonest. I'm just saying in time that that money's going to be there for them. They can sell that. So I'm just looking down here at Jim explain about the revenue sharing. So Jim, think about it kind of like the NFL, a lot like the NFL. And that you have kind of like this cap space. You have this money that you can spend on a roster. Mississippi State is going to be able to pay these players through the university, through this state excellence fund or whatever. And they are going to put aside money each year from the revenue that they make as a university in athletics. They will put aside, a certain amount of money, which I think they're going to go with the max amount that most everybody is. And that money will be divided among players within the athletic department through their the revenue sharing model. So, along with that, like I said, you're going to have the Bulldog Initiative. So it's not going to be just straight funded from the university, and these players aren't going to be straight funded from the Bulldog Initiative either. So, in a lot of ways, it's still going to be fan funded in many ways, but at the same time, the pressure of the fan being controlling that is kind of going to be alleviated a little bit, and it's not going to be so severe. And I think you guys won't be asked to foot the bill as much, but you will be asked, still to give some money because you got the Bulldog Club, you got season tickets. Your money is going to go into this regardless. If you are a Mississippi State fan, you're attending games, things like that. So the revenue that Mississippi State makes partially will go towards funding athletes sooner rather than later. Cameron Cotton, Robbie, you mentioned the fact that the administration is pushing harder and expect to see more soon. Can you allude to anything? That's what I was alluding to, actually. Part of the $8 million gift was a big thing that I was talking about, but I don't think they're done with big gifts. I expect more financial contributions coming in a big way from Mississippi State fans. On top of the fact that they're raising more money now with the Bulldog Initiative, they have the Answer the Bell uh, initiative that they're doing now. Charlie has announced that. I saw him announce it on our board earlier. And so that's going to be big. They're trying to raise, I think, $1 million with that here in the next week or so, I think, or the end of the month, maybe. I'll have to look back and see for sure. But yeah, they're still rolling. Joshua Wright, any truth of getting Deke Adams to coach defensive line next year? I haven't heard anything like that. I don't think that anything's been decided one way or the other on the defensive line coach. You certainly got to see more from David Turner to have faith that he can keep going in this current era of football in the Southeastern Conference, especially. Can State flip Kevin Otis? We'll see. I don't know. I don't really know where they stand with him right now. I haven't heard much about him. I don't know if State is still heavily pursuing him or not. It was just really weird recruitment, and the fact that he chose Arkansas was even more strange. Mason Welch had on 3 monies for real. Robbie and Paul dropped the bag today. I wish, man. Can I just have 100,000 of that 8 million? I could do a lot with $100,000 of that 8 million. You give me 500,000, I could live off of that for the rest of my life, probably. I'm a very simple man. Doesn't take much. And Jim, by the way, and for anybody else, talking about joining late, when I finish this, you guys can go back and watch this in full or watch whatever you missed. So while this is live, if you're not familiar with YouTube, whenever I end the stream, it should be archived and you should be able to go back and watch it if you want to hear anything else about what I said. Anthony Frederick, I like the idea Brian had the other day to get Pernell McPhee in the boat. Yeah, would be a little bit of a risk just because he's never really been a assistant coach at this point, just a position coach at least. He's a rising star in the business. I think you certainly got to give him a call and see if he'd come home and be an analyst or something, which is I think what he's doing at Michigan right now. You at least got to see if he'd be interested in coming back for that. Because I think that's an excellent resource to have on your roster, to have an NFL guy that played at Mississippi State. Just reading through these, see if there's anything that we haven't already talked about. Zachary Corbo, do you feel this Saturday is a big game not only for Florida but also for state? Absolutely. I think that this is huge for both teams in different ways. For Mississippi State, you're trying to get some momentum early on in Jeff Lebby's tenure. This would still be a huge win for them. Maybe not so much like a marquee win, but this is a talented Florida team. It's not like you're going up against a bunch of scrubs that they're kind of in disarray a little bit, but this is still a team that can play. And for Mississippi State to be able to win that game and continue the momentum that you picked up in the last 2 days, 2 or 3 days at that point, I think that that's huge for you moving forward, even with Texas coming up next week, and then you got Georgia. I mean, that momentum would quickly be stalled, but you would rather have that momentum at this point than just free falling, because that's what's going to happen if you lose this game. That's three straight losses, and then you got Georgia or Texas and Georgia in back-to-back games. So you really need this one. And for Florida, Billy Napier might get fired regardless of what happens on Saturday. But if they lose, I have 99.9% confidence he's done. Austin Bonner, I can't agree more on coming to games no matter what. Show team faith and show these recruits who we need to join. What a great game environment it can be. I agree. I think that it's a lot like, I look at South Carolina, and to me, they have one of the best fan bases in college athletics. Like, especially football, that's a program that has not been just super impressive. But their fans continue to show out. They were not very good in their first game against Old Dominion. They beat Kentucky, but that game against LSU, they made that like the biggest game, in college football that day, and they got game day, all that stuff. Their fan base is incredible, and they support their team pretty heavily no matter what's happening. I think they have a great fan base, and I think that's important for Mississippi State fans too. Is I know that it's tough to go see that, but to me, when I'm thinking long term for Mississippi State, to be able to show players that, hey, even when this team's struggling, even when this program's struggling, the fans show up. This is a great environment every week. This is a great fan base. That's tough to convince yourself to go watch what you watched against Toledo, but I think stuff like that is vital. I mean, I really do. I feel like it's really important for Mississippi State to have that support through what's about to be a really difficult season. And it's kind of like Dan Mullen said in '09. I mean, it's not that the winning comes and the fans come. It's that the fans come and then the winning follows. So I think that really is important long term for Mississippi State, that fan base is involved. And it's one of those things, like, you have to have a conversation with yourself, like, and is this worth it for me, for my mental health and financially? I'm not the person to tell you what to do on that. Matt Pickney, any surprises on this week's injury report for either state or Florida that impacts how you expect the game to unfold? I don't know if I have any surprises. Um, well, at least not to the point that, I think it changes the outcome of the game. But I will say I'm a little surprised Corey Ellington is now probable. He has a chance to play, and not just a chance. Probable. He's probably going to play. That's a guy that I felt like might be out a little longer. If you only lose him for 3 games, that's a big win for you, because you desperately need some help there at defensive back. Looking at the rest of the list, I don't know what's going on with Calvin Dinkins, but he's obviously, that injury is a little more severe than what Jeff Lebby made it seem like a few weeks ago when we talked to him. But not a lot of huge surprises to me. But the Ellington was I was a little surprised to see him as probable. That's big. They desperately need him out there. Atypical. The new coach is terrible and his play calling is predictable. No running game. I mean, I don't really blame the head coach for the no running game thing. I don't think that's a. I think he's doing what he has to do with his personnel. I mean, the offensive line is not performing well. They're not opening up holes. This offense is predicated on the running game. They've got to be able to run the football. If you've watched it anywhere he's been, then I mean that's what they do. They run the football and it opens up the play action pass. It opens up big plays on the field. They haven't been able to do that. So it's way too early to say that. I don't think the play calling's been all that bad. I haven't had a lot of issues off with the offensive play calling so far. It's just the execution's been rough. I like this offense a lot, and I think Jeff Lebby is one of the best play callers out there. But there's only so much you can do with the personnel, and we'll see if they're able to kind of get it going. The offensive line especially has just been really disappointing. But not all that, I can't really say that that's a big surprise because this is 4 new guys on the offensive line, and you got one guy returning that started 2 games, so it's a entirely new offensive line. They're obviously not locked in at this point. Big mix. Robbie Wise, Tyler Woodard out for the first half of the game. He had a targeting in the fourth quarter against Toledo. Patrick Ezel, my guy. Next commit prediction. Who could be next? I'm trying to think who's kind of borderline committed. I don't think it's going to be Hardy from EMCC. I think he's going to wait things out. It might be a little bit to be somebody from the 26 class, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't have these 2 guys, Tony Mitchell and Tyler Lockhart. Those are the 2 guys that I've kind of been focused on as the next guys to jump. And and now I don't know who would be next. I think this week could go a long way with a few guys. They have a really nice visitors list. If you guys want to check that out, we got it over at Maroon and White Daily. Anthony Frederick. Hate to see Dinkins out again this week. Hope he can get past the injury bug. Yeah, that just can't stay healthy. Stringer says now it's the money comes and the wins follow. Yeah, kind of. But to my point originally, that kind of falls on the fans. I mean, you're asking the fans to pay for everything now, so I guess that involves the fans there too. Zachary, how do you feel about the baseball commits we just got? Really good. I think both of those guys are going to be, top 100 type players. They're going to be very good over the next year. Big, physical pitchers. One of them is a 6'3" right-hander. I think it's going to be a mid-90s guy. State bid out Texas for him. State bid out Texas for the other one as well. Beckett, the kid from Indiana. Talked to him last night. He went to Texas. This kid's 6'6", 210. 2 years ago, he was 6'4", 140, which is skinnier than what I was when I was real thin in college. He's 6'6", 210 now, but left-handed pitcher, nice frame. State contacted him like right away. August 1st was the first day that they could contact recruits, underclassmen that are juniors. And State was like 6 minutes in that he got a text from Justin Parker, which means he's probably, around the top of the board. Justin Parker recruits Indiana really hard. And he went to Texas, almost committed there, but he had these visits laid out. He was going to go to South Carolina. He was going to go to Vanderbilt, IU. I think he was going to go to Kentucky, and Mississippi State was next stop. And he came last week and was just absolutely blown away. He was kind of ready to commit to Texas, but he wouldn't take those visits. This visit was so good, he didn't even take those other visits. He just went ahead and committed. So Mississippi State baseball still has some juice, man. And high school recruiting's been pretty good. I mean, I can't really complain about the high school recruiting, especially over the last few months. I think they've been pretty good there. Nick Graham, would you say the defense's issue is coaching or personnel? So many plays last weekend over the middle with no guys near the ball. Yeah, I think it's mostly personnel, but you are dealing with a first-time defensive coordinator, and I think Coleman Hutzler has definitely been learning on the fly in a lot of ways, which is kind of expected. I expected him to take his lumps this year. I would be pretty surprised if they made a change after the year. I think they're going to allow him a chance to kind of figure things out, and he's recruiting really well. So, getting some players in here I think would change a lot. On defense, if you got the dudes, that's more than half the battle. If you got the dudes, you put them in position and let them go hunt. I don't think State has the dudes. The defensive line is the worst defensive line I've seen at Mississippi State in a long time. Like, it's just getting kind of blown off the ball by Toledo. It's hard to believe they've gotten themselves in this position after all these years of producing great defensive linemen. So that's kind of embarrassing for Mississippi State to not have a defensive line that it can count on, because that's been a group that has won battles up front for years, and they're just not doing it right now. And then, the linebackers are being asked to do a lot. Secondary is kind of chasing guys around. I thought that the scheme was a lot better last week, but they just didn't. They just couldn't make plays. They brought pressure. They couldn't get there. They had nobody in place to defend the passes whenever the pressure didn't work. So it was just kind of a mess all the way around. And again, this kind of stuff, not a surprise. This is kind of what was expected about this defense, but they might actually be worse than what was expected. Ryan Hunter Bolware, what's your early prediction for Saturday? I predicted Mississippi State to win the game by 3 points, 27-24. I don't feel great about that prediction. It's probably a homer prediction. I'm not even going to lie about that. And maybe it's just on the heels of this, the big day on Thursday. Maybe I'm just optimistic all of a sudden. But nothing would shock me. No outcome in this game would shock me whatsoever. But I got State winning the game in a close game. I think the key in this game, for Mississippi State, they need to come out early in the ball game and have success. They need to score points in the opening possession. They need to get the job done early, start delivering the first punches in this game, because the last 2 weeks they haven't done that, and we saw what happened. They did in the first week, and Eastern Kentucky stinks, so I don't think that probably had something to do with it. But 2 3-and-outs, I believe, in the last 2 weeks, and you didn't get anything, and then the other team went down there and scored. So you've got to come out and deliver the first punch on Saturday, and I think that will go a long way. Zachary, thoughts on Isaac Smith? I think he's been great. Probably having to do a little too much right now. If you look at sorry, we just got the new injury report. Kedrick Bingley Jones, Xavier Gayton, Chris Keys, Calvin Dinkins, Marlon Hawk, all out. Diego Broomfield's doubtful, but no more Corey Ellington. So that's good news for Mississippi State. But Isaac's been great. I think he's been Mississippi State's best defensive player, and that's a lot of tackles he's having to make, but he's been fantastic. Anthony, let me tell you, if one of the baseball recruits was visiting during the Hardy concert, I don't blame him. I would have committed too. Yeah, that they actually. I don't think he was there. Beckett Doan, I don't think he was there the other night, but they did have Landon Brown, the kid from Texas. He was there for the concert, and he said it was awesome. I was there too. It was indeed awesome. Patrick, will Travion Williams ever reach his potential, or is he a bust? I still think it. He will. I mean, he still has just not played a ton of ball games, and just hadn't been healthy enough to be in there for a sustained amount of time. My prediction on him is you're going to get one really good year out of him, and then he's going to go to the NFL and he's going to blow up. That's my prediction with him. All right, guys, I'm going to cut it there. We've gone for nearly an hour. This has been another great night. I appreciate you guys stopping in. As always, we are almost to 1,000 subscribers. Thanks to all of you. I'm trying to get over that mark. So if you have not subscribed, please do it tonight. I would very much appreciate it. That's a milestone number that I got over 2,000 at my YouTube channel, and then I had to switch over to this. That was devastating for me. So it's been kind of a hard reset here where we've tried to build this thing back up to where it was on my other YouTube account. So please subscribe to that so we can do some more things on this channel. Once we get over that 1,000 member number, we'll have some better quality video. We'll be able to do a lot more things for you guys here in the chat, things like that. So if you aren't doing that, please go ahead and subscribe right now. It doesn't cost you a thing. It just notifies you when I'm going live, when I've posted new videos. You will get a notification that tells you about all that. And we got some great content that comes out throughout the week. We got interviews with players. We got Jeff Lebby's press conferences normally. And then we got Talkin Dawgs every single week, and also reactions to each Mississippi State ball game as well. So please come check us out as well on the Maroon and White Daily webpage on 3. Would love for you guys to come be a part of that community. We are at record numbers there. We've already gone above and beyond what Paul and I did when we were together at 247 in the first 6 years. We already have surpassed that number in less than a year. So we are super proud of that. And that's all because of our members over there at Maroon and White Daily. So come check us out. Paul Jones is the best in the business with Mississippi State recruiting. And we take pride in our basketball, football, baseball coverage. And, of course, our message board, which is the lifeblood of our website. We do not exist without our message board. And that is, to me, the strength of our entire site is having knowledgeable posters, people that know about Mississippi State football, that have connections, that love Mississippi State. Come check us out there. So we don't have any big-time deals like we did a couple of weeks ago, but we would still love to have you if you haven't subscribed. All right, guys, stay tuned for Thunder and Lightning coming out later tonight, early tomorrow morning for our 3 Ps. We talk about the commitments. We talked about the donation that Mississippi State got as well. And it's a good show, good long show for those of you that like those. Check that out in the morning. Appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. I hope to see you Saturday. If you see me, holler at me. Say hello. Would love to meet you. But I'll be there Saturday morning bright and early, and hope to see you guys there as well as Mississippi State tries to get off the mat here. This is a tough road for Mississippi State, but this is a good opportunity to move forward as a program, as a university, all that stuff. We'll see if they can do it. Hopefully they can, and maybe we'll have a much happier reaction video and Talkin Dawgs coming up in the coming days. All right, guys, have a great weekend. We'll see you at Davis Wade Stadium. I'll catch you down the road.